Okay, folks, today I have with me a very good friend and awesome realtor, Tristan Lipschutz from eXp Realty in Nevada, here to tell us a little bit about herself, her process, and also give us a really good update on what's going on in Nevada in real estate. So thanks for joining us, Tristan.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Me
A little
too, super
nervous.
awesome. I promise I won't throw you any curveballs.
All right.
But yeah, before we get started and start talking about real estate, maybe tell the audience like a little bit about yourself and your process and how you think about real estate.
Yeah, so I'm a newer realtor. I've been licensed since August of 2022, and I am very much like a self-starter, go-getter, and I love building relationships. That's kind of my jam. Like my background is I came from food and beverage, and I was a general manager at Starbucks for a long time. So meeting people, that is like where I thrive in. So first things first, when I'm like meeting somebody is I get to know a little bit more about them. Like, what are your goals? Where do you see yourself in the next couple years? Whether I'm working with a buyer or a seller, I always ask those questions because they're so important. And I like to get a little bit of insight on, what they want out of this real estate transaction. And maybe they will find out in the end that they don't even want or need or are in a position to buy or sell real estate at that point in time too. So getting a good idea on where they're at is really important to start out.
Yeah, I love that. Relationship based is, I think, very, very important in every business, but especially in real estate when our clients, potentially maybe you or who are watching this, if you're thinking about making a big decision in your life, like buying a house, selling a house, refinancing or something, right? Like you want to know that the person that you work with is somebody that you actually trust, cares about your situation, and it's not just transactional, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super important. I think the other thing too is that even though, like, quote unquote, you are a newer realtor, the folks who watch my channel, they know that I only bring people on here that I trust and that I would recommend and vouch for. And in your case, like, this is, folks, this is somebody who I absolutely would recommend if you're looking to buy or sell. I think Tristan, your husband is also a realtor, so you're kind of a team, right?
Yep. Yeah, so we are a team. It's kind of nice because we balance each other out, and where he lacks, I excel, and vice versa. So we make a really good team inside and outside of business.
Super.
Really nice.
Great. So yeah, I guess with that, we'll jump right into it. Tell us, like, how is the market looking? I know you're in Nevada. For those who don't know, you're in northern Nevada. You're not in Vegas. You're in like Reno. And what other areas are you in, and how are things looking?
So I cover Reno, Sparks, the greater Carson City area, and Lake Tahoe, in Nevada, of course. I'm not licensed in California. Maybe one day, but one thing at a time right now.
Yeah.
I do have referral partners in that side of the lake though as well, which is really nice. But the market is insane. So we only have 1.4 months of inventory.
Wow.
And that is between each location that I just said. So that is, I wrote a couple notes down because month over month, we are just like trending more and more into a seller's market. The median sales price right now is up 1.9% month over month at 525K, and closed sales month over month are up 45%.
Yeah.
Days to contract down 42%. So only 19 days to contract right now. So days on market are slim. And of course, it really depends on, which properties you're looking at. So, those houses that are in the 450 and under range are flying off the shelves like ASAP. And then the homes that are in the like 500 to 700,000 range, those ones are like sitting on the market for a little longer. I have one in contract right now, and I'm on the listing side and it's 565. It took 30 days to get a contract on that one. And we listed it in January. Yeah, end of January. So yeah, it's just really depends on, the type of property you're listing. That one's a multifamily, so that one's a duplex. And so that one's a little bit more of like a niche product as well, whereas somebody that's traditionally single family home buyers in Reno area. But this one's a property near UNR. And so it's like walking distance to university. So if you have like a kid that's going to college there, then that's like prime opportunity for somebody to have their kid live there and then rent it out to whoever else, or for whatever reason you want a duplex. But yeah, so it's definitely trending in a seller's market, and the active inventory is down 10.5% month over month. Mm-hmm. So like the sales price is going up, the amount of homes are going down. And the amount of jobs that Reno has right now is just like exponential. Tesla's building a solar plant, and there's a few other factories that are being built right now. So it's like, with the inventory trending downwards, people wanting to hold on to their houses because the interest rates on them are so low because of our record lows last year, year before last year. Mm-hmm. And so people are just like not wanting to sell. I mean, I'm a prime example. Andy and we just bought a new house in late December, and we bought it because there's no other buyers in the market right then. So we're like, well, we're going to be able to get a pretty good deal. We don't have competition. The prices are lower. Yeah, rates are a little bit higher right now. Get them to buy down our interest rate a little bit and then refinance in the future. And then instead of selling our other house, we just rented it out because our interest rate over there is 2.9, Mm-hmm. So yep. I think that's happening a lot with homeowners right now, is they're just not wanting to give up those rates. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, again, who watch this channel, they know that I really love Michael Zuber. He's one of my mentors. He's phenomenal real estate investor, lives in the Bay Area. He owns many, many properties, and he's been investing for years. And he called this, I think he called this a year ago, where he said that these low interest rates are going to cause everybody to refinance. And then what we call your move up buyer is going to be on the sidelines for a significant period of time until rates come back down, such that it's advantageous, right, for them to sell and then jump into another bigger house with the correct interest rate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess what that brings to mind here is, let's say I'm watching this right now and I want to potentially buy in one of these areas, right? In anywhere in Nevada. What are the things that you're recommending in your business to like help somebody sort of get over that hump and be able to buy in, Reno, Sparks, or any one of those areas, right? Like Lake Tahoe and so forth.
Yeah, right now I am advising my clients to, in the offer, have the seller buy down their interest rate. And I usually ask my clients right up front, I'm like, what is the most important thing for you right now? Is it to get a lower purchase price on your home completely, or to have a lower monthly payment? Like, what position are you at? Are you going to be able to afford these monthly payments, or are you just looking at kind of the long haul and how much you're spending overall? So when I get that figured out, then most of the time it's, we want our monthly payments to be lower. And in that case, I usually say, obviously there's different rules with different loans. And, if you put a certain percent down, you can only get so much in seller concessions. And so depending on how much they put down, then we usually ask the max amount for seller concessions. And maybe start a bidding war, and oftentimes get it accepted right then and there. But the reason why I always tell them to ask for the most right off the bat is because, obviously you know this, but I'm sure a lot of viewers don't know this, is that the sellers can actually buy down the interest rate even more than the buyers can, right? I'm not just looking at
Yeah, no, true. I love that. And I think, that I want to definitely help put people who maybe they don't know what some of these terms are. So one of those would be Could you describe what that means for a seller to either give you concessions or buy down your interest rate?
Yeah, so like a seller concession is, it's basically you're getting cash from the seller to either pay for your closing costs, pay for, it could be a repair allowance, it could be buying down the interest rate, like I said. And when you buy down an interest rate, let's say, today's rates are 6.16. So you are having the seller pay cash from their net profit to bring that interest rate down lower. And I think it's like, you have more knowledge than this. I'm not going to speak out of my scope, but I know that it's only, a certain amount of dollars is equal to a certain amount of basis points that you can buy down the interest rate. So I had a client recently that was able to buy the rate down to, back when rates were like 6.7, I want to say, she got it down to about a 6.1. And when Andy and I were buying our home, the rates at the time were 6.25-ish. We got it down to a 5.8. So does that kind of explain? I hope it does.
100%. Yes, it does. And I think perhaps like a sort of a broader perspective from a higher viewpoint, right? Like a 10,000 foot perspective, is that if you're watching this and you're thinking, what is a buy down or what does that mean? Really what this means is, just like Tristan said, but put in a different way, is that you can get potentially a seller to help you pay for getting a lower interest rate, which then brings down your monthly payment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yep. And potentially can bring down your payment a lot, right? Just depending on how much you can get the seller to come to the table with in terms of concessions, right?
Yeah. We were looking at I want to say $2,900 a month for our mortgage, at around 6.2 rate. And I think we did get it down to is like $2,600 a month. So that's like, $300 savings per month.
Yes. Yeah. It's humongous. Yep. What would you say to somebody right now who maybe they're thinking that they want to buy, but prices are potentially higher than they'd like, but also they're thinking, as many people seem to think right now, that they're going to wait because they think there's going to be a housing crash?
I get a lot of people thinking that. And actually, when Andy and I bought our house, just, back in December, I had non-real estate professionals say, "Oh my God, haven't you seen the media? It's a bad time to buy. Why are you buying?" And so I thought it was hilarious because obviously I'm a real estate professional and I'm in the industry. I'm seeing what's happening month over month. And I just don't think that that's going to happen. And a big reason for that is the amount of inventory that we do have, or the lack of inventory that we do have, and how low the rates are tied to those homes. People can afford their mortgages, and rental demand is so high right now too, that even if somebody needed to move to another state and didn't want to sell their home, they could rent it and probably double what they even bought what their mortgage was. So is that going to answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. It seems to be like a pretty common thing where folks that I'm speaking to, just like you are, they're seeing certain things in either social media or television, or they're having groups of friends that they talk to. And this is like a rumor, right, that's going around where they think that, gosh, the prices are high and there's these things happening geopolitically. So there has to be some sort of a housing crash. But for those of us on the inside, we see a stark contrast and a difference between what multiple factors caused the crash of 2008, right? Yeah. Deregulation. We had really bad loans, ARM loans, and people taking out too much debt. They were over leveraged and they didn't have equity. So the next thing you know, right, they start defaulting. Versus today, we don't see those bad loans having been given out, right? And people have equity and so forth. So there's a big difference between then and now, right? Yeah. Humongous.
Yeah, and I mean, while prices are up month over month, they're still down. So the median sales price, like I said, it's up 1.9% month over month to $525, but it's down 7.9% from last year. So we've already seen homes go down in price, and now we're starting to see it creep up. So now, in my eyes, is like a very opportune time for buyers to get in the game because rates are where they're at. A lot of buyers aren't able to afford that monthly payment. So if you can, then snag it while you can, you know?
Yeah. That actually brings to mind something else because, I mean, the fact that you're near Lake Tahoe, of course, that's such a beautiful place, right? How are you dealing? Do you really focus on working with investors who maybe want to buy investment properties, or what does your process look like for working with potential buyers on either the investor side or, first time home buyers?
Yeah, I have an investor client in escrow right now, and the property was sitting on the market. I wrote this down because it's a pretty big number. It's like 210 days.
Wow.
Yeah, 210 days the property was sitting on market from May of last year all the way up till January of this year. I was able to get them a huge deal. And it's located, this is the one I was talking, thank you. This is the one I was talking about earlier. That's on the bottom of Mount Rose Highway. So it's a fix and flip. So they were able to get a really good deal. They're going to renovate it, and then they're going to kind of assess whether they're going to resell right off the bat, depending on what the market does, which it's trending in their favor right now, or if they're just going to Airbnb it out or something because of the location to Tahoe. So Reno's a really good place for Airbnbs and short-term rentals as well. I say Airbnb, but obviously there's a lot of short-term rental opportunities.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of festivals like the Hot Air Balloon Festival every year, the Reno air races, the Reno Rib Cook-Off, Hot August Nights, Street Vibrations. There's a ton of events always happening in Reno every year.
So potentially it stands to reason that if you're somebody who's potentially looking to buy, maybe you live there, maybe you don't, but you're looking to buy in one of these areas, it seems to stand to reason that the prices are going to continue to go up because you have this low supply, high demand, right? Mm-hmm. And these just gorgeous views and location wise, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Property taxes are also very low over here compared to, for instance, our neighboring state of California. And it's also so close to California at the same time. It's, what is it? About 20 minutes from the center of Reno to the border of California. And then that's Verdi. So Verdi is like half in Nevada, half in California. But right there is the border, and then you're off to Truckee, another 20 minutes down the road. And so super close to like Donner Lake, close to the coast, 3.5, 4 hour drive. So there's a lot of draw to Reno, and there's so much to do around here.
I was actually going to ask you, because I'm somebody who transplanted from San Diego to here in Phoenix, in the greater Phoenix area. Are you seeing like a good amount of people moving from places like California and elsewhere to these areas that you're in Northern Nevada?
Yes. Everyone, I'm actually from California myself, but everyone's always like, oh, everyone's coming from the Bay Area. But I mean, that's what makes our economy grow and is the way that it is. It's like we need people to move here. I mean, yeah, depending on how you look at it, but
sure,
that's like how growth happens.
Yeah,
everyone's coming from California Bay Area.
Yeah. It's funny because around here, and you may see this too, I tend to notice license plates a lot, right? And I notice for us here in Arizona, it's actually a pretty mixed bag. I see some from California, but then I see a lot from very cold environments like Minnesota, right? New York and places. They're just like, yeah, I talked to somebody at the gas station the other day, and him and his wife were just tired of like the just brutal cold. And they were just like ready to live here in Arizona. And so that's why they moved,
Oh.
Yeah. So I imagine that could be happening where you are too.
Oh, yeah.
The 3 L's of real estate, right? Location, location, location.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or when I make a phone call to somebody and they tell me, "Oh, I almost didn't pick up the phone because your number is from California." Like, oh, I need to change that.
So I want to shift gears for a second and just talk about choosing a realtor, right? I have this all the time where it comes up. I have ads out there. I take calls from folks who are looking to get pre-approved for a loan, and almost always, I'll ask them if they already working with not just a realtor, but somebody like they really trust and they really know is doing a
Yeah.
great job. So to that effect, what things do you think like are the most important that make a really great realtor stand out from somebody who is like not the best choice to represent you as a buyer or a seller?
Yeah, I think that you really need to have a realtor that thrives on communication. And that's with you, the loan side of things. So, like, you being the buyer or whoever, you being the lender, the other side too. If you're in a transaction, you need to have a realtor that's not going to create like a toxic environment between the other agent because you're on opposing sides. We're all on the same team here and we all have the same goal, and that's to close the transaction and to have it be a smooth, seamless process. So I think that is a huge thing that's overlooked and that I notice some realtors just don't have. And so I think it's just really important that on top of loyalty to your client and just, I see some things sometimes where it's just a little bit hairy, like when you call an agent and it's like, how much room for negotiation? And then they give you kind of a lot of information and it's like, I would never do that to my client. I want to close a transaction. I want to get them the best deal, but I'm not going to give too much to them at the same time. So that's important. What else?
I was just going to ask you, actually, you just mentioned like a key word that I have written down here, which I think a lot of folks who are looking to buy or sell a house, they perhaps like they just, maybe this is something that slips their mind, but it's almost something that I feel like I have to bring up every time in regards to choosing a realtor, which is the skill of negotiation. And I know you guys have talked, you and I have talked about this a lot, off of camera, but how important is negotiation as your skill set as a realtor who's trying to win that contract?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I think people, they choose an agent and they're like, oh my gosh, they're going to get me, top dollar for my house or whatever, but they don't think about the big picture of things. Like there are things that we can negotiate that can win a deal that's not top dollar if you're a buyer. For instance, if I'm representing a buyer, I call the agent on the other side that we want to put the offer in and I say, what is your seller's position? Do they need rent back? Meaning, they would close the deal and they need to live there for the next, 2 weeks to get all their stuff out. Or, are your sellers in a position for a quick close, or do they want a long escrow, or do they need, are they able to pay for closing costs? Things like that. It's just, there's a whole other realm of negotiation beyond actual cost. And that's really important to know. And yeah, I think it's something I'm really good at because I'm good at talking to people and just, I don't want to bring an offer to somebody that they're going to look at it and laugh and be like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I want to bring them an offer that they're like, wow, this person actually listened to my client's needs and wants, and they're also representing their client and their needs and wants. And so let's come out on the other side together,
Yeah, it's funny, guys who are watching this, I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to somebody and I'll ask them, do you have a great realtor who you really trust and you've worked with? And sometimes they'll say yes. And then as I continue to inquire, what you come to find out is they haven't vetted this person at all. There's somebody who maybe their sisters, brothers, friends, cousins, friend referred them, or somebody at work, and they have no idea what kind of successful track record they have. So one of the reasons why I have this show is because any realtor that you see on this show, you can know that I personally have vetted them, and I trust 100% certainty, to the best of my human knowledge, that this person is going to be able to get you across the finish line and get exactly what you need, right? In Tristan's case, of course, this will be for areas in Northern Nevada. And the skill of negotiation, I feel like, as you just mentioned, Tristan, it seems to be like under talked about, or maybe just people just don't think about it enough. They just think, well, you're just going to list my house and that's it. But realtors do so much more. So maybe talk to that. Like, what are some of those big bullet points that you do that like the public and general buyers and sellers need to know that realtors do?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that we do. I provide follow-up with everyone involved in the transaction. There's the title company with title and escrow. There's the agents on each side. There's the lender. There's, the inspector. There's the appraiser. There is the person, the repairman that is fixing the furnace prior to close of escrow that your buyers really want to get fixed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things. And I actually just had my first probate sale as well. So sometimes even courts involvement and everything. So yeah, there's quite a bit to go into. And it's not just showing people cool houses. And as much as I love doing that, it's great, it's fun. But sometimes you show one client 50 houses and then they decide that they don't even want to make an offer. And I mean, that's okay. I'm here for building relationships, like I said. So if somebody calls me and wants to go look at a house, I'm happy to show them. But then you have those clients that only want to see particular houses and have their mind made up, and super quick and easy transaction. So it all weighs out, but there's definitely a lot to go into it. Listing photos, getting the home prepped and cleaned, recommending certain repairs prior to listing the home. So there's quite a bit.
I feel like I bring this up because I think that similar to this belief that there's going to be a housing crash, I think there's also another potential false belief out there that realtors don't do very much. They're not worth very much, right? We hear this all the time. And let me tell you, folks, I think, and I like to bounce this off you, Tristan, I think in my perspective, this is true in some cases. But when you find somebody who's a great realtor, that is a totally different conversation, because that person is going to bring so much value with being able to negotiate, knowing your contracts, knowing when things need to happen, and making sure that you're able to either, able to list the house and get it sold, given your expectations, or be able to help you buy the house and get that house under contract, win that contract or that bid against somebody else, right? So maybe speak to those like false beliefs that people think that realtors just don't do anything.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that too, because I recently closed a transaction with somebody that I worked with in the past. And I was told by another person, that deal doesn't count because you knew them before. And so, okay, I can brush that one off my shoulders. But it's funny because there's a saying, it's like clients, it's easier for clients to become friends than for friends to become clients. And it's because people know you so well, and because your friends or family maybe don't want to hurt a relationship that you have, because money can hurt a relationship, Yeah. And honestly, I forgot the question, but it
was more just about, sort of addressing that very common belief that realtors don't do anything, right? They're not really worth very much and stuff. And
so in that transaction specifically, that's kind of what I was talking about with the furnace. Like, it was a short sale, which we don't see many of those around Reno. I think my broker had told me she's seen 3 in the last 10 years probably, or since, yeah, since about, that 2008, 2009 time. But with a short sale, it's a foreclosure, it's a bank owned property, or not quite foreclosure yet, but it's a bank owned property. And so they don't like to pay for repairs. My client loved the property so much that she was like, if anything comes up, then we're gonna figure it out prior to close of escrow. And there's a ton of risk involved in that. So I told her right off the bat, if we have to repair something, it's gonna be something that's not guaranteed. If the seller dies tomorrow, the day after you make the repairs, that money is not going back in your pocket, And so I explained that. And so we went through a process of having to repair and replace the furnace, which we had to, find a furnace company that was willing to do that for a buyer prior to close of escrow with the seller's permission. We had to call Nevada Energy, get somebody to go out there, turn on the gas. I had to sit on the phone for a couple hours with Nevada Energy multiple times because they didn't turn on the gas when they were supposed to and show up for their appointment. We had a appraiser come out and so appraisers, they come and tell you the value of the home, obviously for everybody watching. Well, if something is wrong and makes the condition not livable for some loans, you have to repair that prior to close of escrow. So the appraisal came back conditional on the repair of the furnace. So we had to call the appraiser, get them out to re-inspect the furnace after fixing it. And it was just a whole debacle. But my client was so grateful to me. It was really awesome. And it's really rewarding when you do things like that, like go out of your way for your clients. Because I could have sat back and been like, here, figure it out. But that's not who I am. And I go beyond that for my clients every time because I'm in the business of building relationships. And I want to keep these connections strong and stay in touch and follow up and everything. So yeah, realtors do quite a bit on the back end of things that people don't see.
Yeah, I was just going to say the theme that sticks in my mind is many moving parts, right? There's so many moving parts, not only in loans, right? As you guys know on this channel, I've talked to you a lot about the back end stuff that happens with loans, right? With your underwriting. The underwriter is your referee, right? And there's all these rules and regulations. But as a realtor, if you're a great realtor like Tristan is, you have to know so many different things about the transaction, and you have to see ahead with a specific scenario, because if you don't, potentially the deal can go dead and then you don't get your house, right? I'll give you guys a quick example and then we'll end here because we're over 30 minutes. But I had a situation, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. I had a situation where I had a client I was working with. I got them pre-approved. We had an offer accepted. We were approximately 10 hours from closing, and the title company said we couldn't close because the listing agent didn't take care of the solar lease, and there was a solar lien against the property. My client was in his moving truck moving to Arizona from California. He was with his family. And we had to just put pull out all the stops, make a ton of phone calls to get that solar lien removed because that agent didn't do their job in the beginning 30 days prior, right? So there's an example of a realtor who knows, right? They would see that coming from a long distance away, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually submitted an offer on a property for my client, and it didn't end up working out for that specific property, but it did work out in the long run for them. But I saw the property had solar panels on it. So the very first thing I did was call the listing agent and said, are those owned? Are those leased? Do they owe any amount on them? Is the loan or is the lease assumable? Because sometimes companies don't even allow you to assume the loan for the solar panel. It has to be paid off through close of escrow.
Yep.
And so they told me, I got on the phone with the solar company. I talked to them about, is this loan assumable? They told me it was. So then I had to call our lender, and I was like, hey, if they assume this loan, is it going to affect her loan on the home? Because then the debt to income ratio is off. And it's just like opening a credit card or something in the middle of a transaction, which is obviously forbidden to do. But
don't do it. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of feelings about that, and I'm sorry you went through it. But did you guys close?
We closed. Yeah. But that's something to keep in mind, guys, is when you're choosing a realtor, you want to have somebody who really knows all of the ins and outs of a transaction and the kinds of things that can go wrong so that they can get ahead of those things before they happen. And then you wind up getting your house, as opposed to having a terrible phone call that says, I'm sorry, you don't get the house. Right?
Yeah. In the middle of
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I could probably talk for many more hours about real estate. But the last thing, Tristan, is where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and cell phone, email. I'm sure you'll put links to all of that up here, so I won't go into details on that.
Yep. Is there a preferred way that, like, let's say somebody wants to ask questions or is interested in working with you, a preferred way you'd like to be contacted?
I stay up to date on pretty much every form of social media and emails and phone calls that I get. So wherever is easiest for the client, I am readily available for them.
Cool. So guys, as usual, check the description box below. I'll have all of Tristan's information there. And you guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.